2021 NFL Draft has one of the deepest quarterback classes in recent memory. This year, as many as 5 QBs could potentially go in the first round, which hasn't happened since 1999. Each team could change the entire fortune of their franchise by selecting the right quarterback, who could change their culture, elevate everybody else on the roster, and reignite the organization. With a class this deep, teams will have their pick of the litter on who to build their team around. And for some QBs, more than others, it's hypercritical how teams build a system around them to make them the best. If your staff builds the right system, you'll have a franchise quarterback for the next 15 years. But if they build the wrong one, your guy might not make it through 15 games. Ohio State's Justin Fields is the prospect most dependent on who drafts him. In the right system, Fields has the highest sky-high ceiling of anybody in the class. But if a team puts him in the wrong situation, it will be utter chaos. Fields is the most talented of any of these first-round quarterbacks. So why is it so crucial that a team structures or restructures their entire offensive philosophy around him? To answer that question, let's first outline his strengths, and then we'll later tie in his weaknesses. Fields has exceptional intelligence, toughness, poise, and mobility that all show up repeatedly on film. He has what is already a high-end NFL arm with precision accuracy from 5 yards to 65 yards down the field. He can hang in the pocket late into the down, then stretch the field vertically sideline to sideline with that arm strength, or, when everyone's covered, take off and sprint 40 yards without breaking a sweat. He's brutally tough, but also plays very calm and isn't fazed whatsoever by pressure, whether it comes left, right, or up the middle. And with his ability to buy time in the pocket, excels on long developing concepts that attack deep down the field. Take this example against Clemson in the semifinals of this year's college playoffs, where Fields had one of the best games of his career, completing 79% of his passes for 385 yards and 6 touchdowns. One of the biggest knocks on him is his post-snap processing, and we'll get into some of that later. But here, he shows incredible post-snap processing and delivers a ball that shows that rare ability that makes him so enticing. Clemson's playing a regular cover 4 zone quarters coverage with 4 deep defenders, but pre-snap, the corners are walked up to look like it's cover 2 zone. Ohio State dials up a fade-out cover 2 beater to the right and a post-dig cover 4 beater to the left. Fields starts with the 2 beater, since those corners are down low, and is expecting Andrew Booth not to carry the fade up the sideline. But when Booth bails to his deep quarter at the snap, the fade is dead. This opens the out route underneath, but on 2nd and 10, that's just not sexy enough for Fields. He knows the post-dig concept has a good chance of generating an explosive play. Post-dig is designed to high-low vertically stretch the safety, so when he bites on the dig, or gets caught in between like he does here, the post route is inside leverage on the cornerback with no help in the middle, and Fields delivers this thing damn near 65 yards to the house. It's rare to see college quarterbacks making subtle NFL-caliber movements inside the pocket, especially with pressure up the middle, while keeping their eyes downfield to keep the play and concept alive. The one technique Tyler Davis walks the right guard straight back into Fields' lap. And while many quote-unquote mobile QBs would just take off and run, watch how Fields generates power on his throw from his step away from Davis while maintaining his mechanics, poise, timing, and accuracy. To create easier reads in their offense, Ohio State's system incorporated a lot of half-field if-then type concepts, which target one specific defender who's put in conflict that Fields can read. If the defender goes one way, then you throw to the receiver going the other. The smash concept is a perfect example. Smash is a hitch from the outside receiver and a corner route from the slot. It's designed to conflict the cornerback, who either has to sit on the hitch opening the corner, or fall off the hitch opening the throw underneath. Since we're on the boundary side of the field, meaning the near hash where there's less room, Fields has to read this out quickly and on time, and displays good arm strength to zip this right in front of the safety. Ohio State wasn't afraid to go back to concepts if they were working, and called smash again just a few minutes later. Where Fields really flashes his potential is when he comes off of those half-field reads and manages to progress backside. Here's the smash route on the bottom, but this time it's to the field side where there's more room than the boundary. And then over here, they have a fade with a read seam which will adjust to attack space and coverage. Alabama's running a variation of 2 deep cover 2 man, which isn't a very good call against smash. Cover 2 man has each defender one-on-one positioned with inside leverage, since they don't have a low hole zone defender in the middle to funnel the receiver towards. The weakness of the coverage is anything breaking out like the corner route and smash, since the defenders are inside leveraged, and Fields sees exactly that. But even though this corner's in man, he for some reason falls off his assignment and sinks back, leaving the hitch. Impressively, Fields doesn't fall for the trap, but now has to throw a route running into the leverage of the defender. Since cover 2 man has split safeties, the middle of the field's open, so the tight end Jeremy Ruckert bends his route inside towards that void, but has to beat linebacker Christian Harris's inside leverage, neutralizing any kind of window Fields has to throw. Against Bama, in the national title game, this is an elite NFL caliber pass. And when you pair Fields' willingness to stand in the pocket late in the down and step up into D linemen charging dead ahead to smush him, that kind of toughness is something you rarely ever see in college. Fields will hold the ball long enough to let plays develop that otherwise would never have happened. But while in many ways that's a gift, it can also be a curse. His average time to throw was 3.11 seconds, which was tied for 3rd most in the country. So his poise in the pocket and that aforementioned ability to make big time throws with pressure closing in is just one of the reasons why his potential is so dang high. When he reads these longer developing concepts correctly, he's the best in the country. But when he doesn't, that's when he starts to get into trouble. So far, we've seen what it looks like when he is processing coverages correctly, so we know he can do it and at a very high level. But for every time he does, there are 2 or 3 times where he doesn't. His arm strength gets him out of a lot of bad situations, but that's against Big Ten defenses. In the NFL, every last millisecond can be the difference between a touchdown and an interception. He's already got a slower, elongated delivery, which isn't a problem in itself. But when he hangs on a read a half sec too long or takes an extra hitch in the pocket, all those things compound into potential problems in the future. Against Indiana, while he did pass for 300 yards, he also threw 3 picks, was sacked 5 times, and quite honestly struggled for most of the day. Indiana's running a pretty typical cover 3 zone, except with a nickel firing from the slot, and Ohio State's running a curl to one side with a dagger concept on the other. Against this look, dagger's a good call since it attacks the seam, which is one of the main weaknesses of cover 3. But without the proper timing and execution, that simply doesn't matter. Since the deep third safety is already positioned super heavy away from dagger, this should be somewhat easy. Fields starts to his right, and the safety actually flips his hips towards the curl. Then when that receiver isn't open, Fields needs to throw with anticipation the moment the seam receiver clears the second level. But cause he hesitates a step, the safety reads his eyes and recovers, and is able to jump in front of the pass. From the end zone angle, we can see Fields do a good job manipulating that safety away from the seam. But right here, when the safety's flipped around and Fields' back foot hits, his motion needs to get started now. He's waiting to see the seam come open, rather than anticipating the seam come open. And instead of throwing it straight up the hashes further downfield, he leaves it too far inside, allowing the safety to make the play. Because defenses know Fields gonna hold the ball in the pocket, they blitzed him at an astonishing 45%, gambling he wouldn't quickly pick them apart early in the down to punish the lighter coverage. And they were right. When they sent those blitzes, he actually held the ball a little longer at 3.18 seconds, and even though his stats improved in those situations, his numbers when pressured, blitzed or not, were actually much worse. Part of the reason Indiana gave him so much trouble was because they blitzed him upwards of 60% of the time and frequently rotated their coverages after the snap. If you're not aggressive in defeating the blitz to make defenses pay, they'll call them again and again and again. Indiana's disguising their cover 2 fire zone blitz by positioning one safety in the middle of the field, but will rotate that safety to a deep half outside and drop the corner back into the other. The best way to beat the blitz is to be aggressive with anticipation, and like all blitzes, there's less defenders in coverage, so there's more room to attack. When teams play cover 2 zone, the areas up the sidelines are one of the weak spots in the coverage. When Fields sees that safety breaking towards the sideline at the snap, he should immediately go on the aggressive and throw the vertical behind the corner and in front of the safety. But instead of pulling the trigger, he scrambles right into pressure for another sack. When projecting him into the NFL, the reasons outlined today are why it's crucial his team builds a system around him that emphasizes his strengths while minimizing his weaknesses. Easier said than done. If he's drafted into a vertical style offense that accentuates his arm strength, accuracy, pocket mobility, toughness, and willingness to hold the ball, and can become more consistent with his mental processing, like we saw in the first half of this episode, this is a high-end, perennial Pro Bowl franchise quarterback. But what worries me is if he's drafted into more of a progression style offense that's primarily designed to rely on him reading coverages and go 1, 2, 3, 4 rather than playing to his strengths. Are the flashes of brilliance we saw against Clemson and Alabama proof that Fields can do it consistently at an extremely high level? Maybe. Or do we have to worry about games like Indiana and Northwestern where he didn't show he was comfortable with anticipating reads under pressure? These are the conversations every team picking in the top 10 is debating back and forth. But with all of that said, here's the thing that isn't up for debate. Justin Fields has the potential to make one of the biggest impacts at the next level of anybody in this class. He could be better than Trevor Lawrence, better than Zach Wilson. He has the potential to be the best quarterback in the NFL. His talent is absolutely undeniable. If you build the right system and put him in the right situation, Justin Fields will make dreams become reality.